So it's been a kind of long break for us, and we covered the last time when we met. We covered up to the Aaron's step, and now we're turning into chapter 18 from the Numbers. So chapter 18 covers the duties of a priest and Levites and what they're supposed to be doing, and what priests are doing, and what the Levites are supposed to be doing. So let's just take a quick look at what the Bible says. So the Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons and your father's house, you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood." So pay attention to what this is saying. You and your sons and father's house with you shall bear iniquities. Who's actually bearing the iniquities? The Lord is talking to who? No. I just read it. Lord said to Aaron, right? So Aaron is the one who's listening to this. And you, obviously, is Aaron, and your sons, and who are they? So the Lord is talking to Aaron and his sons, right? So he's talking to the priest, literally. The priest. So you have to attention who is God is actually talking to. So he's talking to priest. You shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, of the tribe of your fathers, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, but shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they and you die. So God is telling the Levites to take up this iniquities. Why? Because this priest is representing ultimately Jesus later on, who's going to take up our iniquities. And no one can come near besides the priesthood. If anyone tries to come near, what happens? They will die. So, can any one of us go directly, bypass the priest, and then go directly to God? Can we? Now we can, but before, no one can. We have to go through the priest, right? So, without going through him, we cannot bypass Jesus to get to God. That's what is actually teaching us. We cannot bypass him. Only a priest can go and take up our iniquities and clean our iniquities with the blood of the animals at the time. So God is just showing them, yes? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. No, because the priest, first of all, they have to bear two iniquities: one for themselves, and two for the congregations. So they cannot represent the congregation's sins until their iniquity is cleaned. So they have to actually offer the offerings to the Lord and cleanse their sins before they can even represent the congregation. So from Jesus' perspective, he didn't have to actually, take up his own iniquities, because he himself is righteous. Has to be someone who has to be clean and without sin can only represent the congregation. You follow? Yeah. And then continue on from there. They shall join, verse 4, they shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altars, and that there may never again be wrath on the people of Israel. And behold, I have taken your brothers and Levites from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. I give you priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall put to death. So, as I mentioned, no one can come to the actual, the Holy of a Holy place and represent the congregation other than the priest itself. So there are times when people came directly to God without go through the priesthood. There was an incident in the Bible that is recorded. And then all this congregation who came, they were completely wiped out. Do you know that incident? Do you remember that incident in the Bible anywhere? No. Congregations directly approach to God, and all the people who came to God completely wiped out. You may remember this, so let's go to actually 1 Samuel. No. First Samuel. We'll turn to 1 Samuel chapter 6. So the story here is, when you look at the chapter 5, the Israelites were fighting against the Philistine, and their idea was, if we bring the Ark of Covenant, we're going to win this battle. So they actually brought the Ark of Covenant as a kind of some kind of weapons to win this battle. Instead of believing in God's power, they thought if they bring the Ark of Covenant, they think that God will be there with them, and then they're going to defeat the Philistine. So they brought the Ark of Covenant out. And then, instead of actually, winning the battle as they expected, God let them completely lose the battle. So, Philistine destroyed all the Israelites, and they took the Ark of Covenant away from them. And then, when you look at verse 5, chapter 1, with the Philistine captured the Ark of God, and they brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. So they took the Ark of Covenant, and they brought into Deer land. And then, after they brought it in, then the Philistine took the Ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it up beside a Dagon. And when the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, behold, the Dagon had fallen face downward on the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and put him back in his place. But when they rose early on the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen face downward on the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of the Dagon and both his hands were lying cut off on the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left to him, and this is why the priest of Dagon and all who enter the house of Dagon do not tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. So what they did was they brought this Ark of Covenant. They did not know where to place, so there's some kind of things that it's actually the Israelites got. So they actually placed in the house of Dagon, because they had no other place to store. So they placed it there, but every morning they coming out, the Dagon statue was just fallen downward, and then it was cut off. And then there was a plague that came upon the land of the Philistines, so they moved from one place to another place. So he jumped around from one town to another, because they don't want to just have this the plague coming upon their town. So they, why don't you take it? So they just pushed them away to some other towns, and when they stored that the Ark of Covenant, the plague came upon them again. So no one wanted to keep the Ark of Covenant anywhere. So what they decided was, you know what? This thing is killing us. So let's just give it back to them. Otherwise, we're going to be destroyed. So in chapter 6, the ark of the Lord was in the country of Philistine 7 months, and the Philistine called for the priest and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us what we shall send it to the place." They said, "If you send away the ark of God of Israel, do not send it empty, but by all means return him a guilt offering, then you will be healed, and it will be known to you, and why his hand does not turn away from you." And they said, "What is the guilt offering that we shall return to him?" They answer, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice, and according to the numbers of the lords of the Philistine, for the same plague was on all of you and all your lord. So they didn't know what to offer as the guilt offering, because they never worship the Lord, so they don't know what kind of things to offer to the Lord. So they brought the tumors, they brought this mice, right? It's whatever, like this is what we give it to our Dagon, so let's give it to him. He might actually forgive us, right? And verse 5, "So you must make image of your tumors and image of your mice, and ravage the land, and give glory to the Lord God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand from off you and your gods and your land. Why should we harden your heart as the Egyptians and the Pharaohs hardened their hearts after he had dealt severely with them? Did they not send the people away, and they departed? Now then, take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows, which there has never come to a yoke, and yoke the cow to the cart, but take their calves home away from them, and take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, and put it in the box as at its side the figure of gold, which you are returning to him as the guilt offering. Then send it off and let it go its way, and watch it. If it goes up on the way to its own land, to Beth-Shemesh, then it is he who has done us this great harm. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that struck us, and it happened to us by coincidence. So what they think was, okay, listen, let's just take this, the cow, let's take this cow, mother cow, and just add a baby, right? But just take this calf away, so then this cow is going to look for its baby, the calf. So if this calf goes straight to Israel without turning either left or right, this must be what God is doing. But if the cow is coming back to looking for the calf, then it must be coincidence. The things that we experienced, the plague, it is not from the Lord, from the Israelites' God, but it must be coincident. So let's watch. So let's see what happened. The man did so, and took 2 male cows and yoked them to the cart and shut up their calves at home. And they put the ark of the Lord on the cart and box with the golden mice and an image of their tumors. And the cow went straight in the direction of Beth-Shemesh along one highway. Lowing as they went, they turned neither to the right nor to the left. And the lords of the Philistine went after them as far as the border of Beth-Shemesh. So what they did was they followed the cart and watched to see whether this cow is turning either left or right, or it's coming back, or they just watched. They just followed it all the way, and then realized this cow never turned to either left or right. It went straight to the Israelites. And then, let's watch where it went. Now, the people of Beth-Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley, and then they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark. They rejoiced to see it. The cart came into the field of Joshua of Beth-Shemesh and stopped there. A great stone was there, and they split up the wood of the cart and offered a cow as the burnt offering to the Lord. Now, the cart that they had, Ark of Covenant, came from Philistine side. Where did this wagon go? Yeah, where did this wagon stop? Where did this cow stop? Okay, so let's pay attention to where it stopped. Verse 14. The cart came into the field of Joshua of Beth-Shemesh. Joshua. Jesus. And the rock. Ark of Covenant. Because the cow does not know where it's going. Right? They just sent it over to Beth-Shemesh. They didn't know where this cow was going. There was no man who was leading this cow. This cow was just going by itself. Cow did not know where it was going, but the cow just went straight, went to the stone, the big stone. And this place is Joshua from Beth-Shemesh. Jesus, the stone. This is cow was carrying the Ark of Covenant. That's where it stopped. No one told cow to do so. The cow did it. Everyone was so happy to see his Ark of Covenant was coming back to the Israelites. They were rejoicing. They were so happy. Verse 17. There are the golden tumors, and the Philistine returned as the guilt offering to the Lord, one for Ashdod, one for Gaza, one for Ashkelon, one for Gath, one for Akron, and the golden mice according to the number of all the cities of the Philistine belonging to the 5 lords, both fortify the cities and unwall the village. The great stone beside which they set down the ark of the Lord is the witness to this day in the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh. So now you understand why this is actually being emphasized. This is where the Ark of Covenant is supposed to be. But then, verse 19, and he struck some of the men of Beth Shemesh because they looked upon the ark of the Lord. He struck 70 men of them, and the people moaned because the Lord had struck the people with the great blow. Then the man of Beth Shemesh said, "Who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God, and to whom shall he go up away from us?" So they sent messenger to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to you." What happened here? So when you look at verse 19, he struck some of the men of Beth Shemesh because they looked upon the ark of the Lord. He struck 70 men of them. But there, you will see there's an NIV version will see differently. It says, struck of the people 70 men, 50,000 men. So imagine, when the Ark of Covenant came back to Israelites, they're so joyful. They're happy to see the Ark of Covenant was coming back to them in 7 months. So they wanted to see. What they wanted to see was they wanted to actually open up the Ark of Covenant to see whether everything what was supposed to be in there is in there. So they slightly open up the Ark of Covenant, and what happened? They all die. They all die. I mean, I want you to think about this for a moment. If it could be 70 people, or it could be 50,000 people, okay? When they came together, how many people can surround this Ark of Covenant? How big is the Ark of Covenant, by the way? What's the size? Remember? You remember this, the length? How many cubits? Wow, now it gets a little complicated, right? So let's go to Exodus then. Where's the Ark of Covenant? Take a look at chapter 25, Exodus. Verse 10. Exodus chapter 25, verse 10. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2 cubits and half shall be its length, a cubit and a half its beneath, and a cubit and a half its height. So, what is the cubit? Correct. Right? So 2 cubits, right, and a half. So how big is that? Right. So if you actually put your hands together like this, right, a little bit bigger than that, okay? It's a little bit bigger than that, right? So imagine how many people can surround this Ark of Covenant. Literally. Exactly. There are a lot of people behind. They weren't even opening up the Ark of Covenant. They was like, let me see, what's going on? They were just like trying to reach to see what's going on. And as soon as the guy opened it, whoever the guy opened it, and then, just like what Max said, it's like a bomb blew up. Everyone was gathered at that place, was completely wiped out. And imagine, if it is 70 people, 70 people. But if as the Bible says, if it is actually 50,000 men were there, imagine, the guy all the way in the back didn't even know what the hell is happening. Right? He just came because there was a lot of people came. And it's like, well, what's going on? Let me just come. He just came and then boom. He didn't even know what was going on. You can imagine this, right? 50,000 men were there, and then imagine, what kind of God is this? They wanted to make sure. They did not do it for bad intention. They just wanted to see. They wanted to just verify, making sure whatever was returned, and return with, the full set. They wanted to make sure that we got everything what we lost. You start with the good intention, but it doesn't matter whether you had a good intention or not. It's just you opened it, everyone was wiped out. Why? Why? Disobedience? Once again, the guy wanted to probably check to make sure whatever was in the Ark of Covenant, wanted to verify what's in there. It just properly returned, right? It was a good intention, but good intention doesn't do anything, because no man can face the Lord directly without having the intercessor. The priest must present for the Israelites. They can't come directly to God because of His holiness, because of His righteousness. No sinner can face the Lord directly. Without cleaning our sins, anyone who comes to God, regardless of Israelites, Egyptians, Philistines, it doesn't matter who it is. Anyone who comes directly to the Lord and His holiness and righteousness, soon as you open it, you will die. So priests must represent them and take up their own iniquities and iniquities of the Israelites and cleanse their sins with the blood. Without that, no one can come to the Lord. This is why the priest could only come to Holy of Holies once a year after they cleanse their sins. Only one day a year they can just come to the Ark of Covenant. And trying to explain, God wanted to see us, He wants to be with us, but He cannot, because we have a sin. Because His righteousness, He will wipe us out. So we have to cleanse our sins in order for us to come directly to Him. So before, God wanted to show and teach the Israelites, you cannot come directly to me. You have to go through the priest to come to me. Don't ever try to come. If you do, you will die. And God warned them. And God actually told them through this law and mentioned it to them, make sure the Israelites understand this. Don't ever come to me directly, because you're going to die. God does not want them to die. But because you didn't read, it's like this. You purchase some product, and you did not read the quick manual, and manual says, do not open this, and then since you did not read the instructions, you just opened it and then just blew up. Now, whose fault is that? Well, obviously you're going to call the manufacturer and say, well, I read it and I did not open it, it just blew up, but you're going to lie. But literally, it's your fault, right? Because you did not read the instruction. You just opened it. If you read it, you would not have opened it. But because you did not know, you would open it. Same goes with the story here. Israelites did not know they cannot open the Ark of Covenant. If they do, they're going to die. But imagine, if they knew about this, would they open it? Who would dare to open this? No one would. But because they did not know, of course the priest knows. Well, I will explain. Because the 1 Samuel is after the Judges. Almost during the time of Judges, no one knew about God's law. No one was teaching. Remember, back then in an ancient day like this, they did not have Bibles like we have. Right? Only priests can read this Bible. Torah was only stored at the sanctuary. No one can read, no one can see, unless they teach them. So God told Moses, every 7th year, sabbatical years, you gather everyone, teach them everything what I told you. Right? But now, guess what? Do you think he did that? Do you think that he did that? Every 7th year he taught people? Obviously he didn't. Right? This is why no one knew about this this law. People did not pay attention to God's law. So they did not know. So they opened it, and that's why they died. So then think about this. If Jesus returns, right, and then only people who believe in Jesus will be saved, rest of them will perish. Then you come to the judgment table and say, well, I didn't know about that. Well, then, what is going to be the response? Well, I'm sorry. I mean, you missed that opportunity to get to know this. So you're dismissed. No. It doesn't matter. This is why the law was given to us. This is why we're here and still living even after we are saved. Because we have to let people know this is going to happen. So when you look at this, take a look at this one, Ezekiel. I mean, I think we read this one many times, but let's turn to Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3. We're going to read from verse 16. Ready? And at the end of a 7th day, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning from me. If I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, in order to save his life, that wicked person shall die for his iniquities. But this blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness or from his wicked way, he shall die for his iniquity, but you will have delivered your soul. Again, if a righteous person turns from his righteousness and commits injustice, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because you have not warned him. He shall die for his sins, and his righteous deed that he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the righteous person not to sin, and he does not sin, he shall surely live, because he took warning, and you will have delivered your soul. So what is he saying? Responsible for what? Here's the watchman, right? Here's the watchman. God warned the watchman, right? And then if he actually warns the people, and if he takes that warning, he can save himself. But after he heard the warning, and he decided not to listen to the warning, then they're going to die. So I'm not going to ask this watchman, you did not do your job. So I'm not going to ask anything from you. But if you do not tell them, I told you, but if you did not relay that warning to other people, and if they die, now you are responsible. Because you, as a watchman, supposed to tell other people, there's something is coming. You may die if you don't take this warning. Do you understand? Does it make sense? So it is our duty, after we are saved, we're living in this land, and is because it's our duty to tell people the Lord is coming. And if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you shall die. But if they listen to the message, and if they turn away from their sins and believe in Jesus Christ, they will be saved. All right? But if they did not take the warning, and if they don't believe in, then it's not my responsibility, because I relayed that message to the person, and the person did not want to believe in it, and it died. It's your fault. But if I did not even say anything, so the person did not even know something was coming, and it died, now I'm responsible. He's going to look the blood from my hand. So, God told Moses, every 7th year, bring the people in and teach them. Because people does not know the God's law. So, all the priests supposed to actually teach them about this God's law, but what they didn't do, nobody was paying attention, nobody was teaching, right? So let's take a look at this commands that God actually gave. Let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 31. Deuteronomy chapter 31. And we're going to read from verse 9. Then Moses wrote this law and gave it to the priests and sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, at the end of every 7 years, at set time in the year of release, at the feast of Booth, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God at the place that he will choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and little ones, and the sojourners within your towns, that they may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, and be careful to do all the words of the law, and that dear children who have not known it may hear it and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land that you are going over the Jordan to possess. God clearly gave the message to the priest, and every 7th year you have to teach the people so they learn how to fear the Lord. How many times do you think they had done this? None. None. So then, will the people know about God's law? They will not know how to serve the Lord, what to do, how to do it. So then, how did they serve the Lord then? How did they serve the Lord without knowing all this? Well, they served the Lord. Not all the time, but they did, somehow. So how did they serve the Lord? Now, turn to Judges chapter 21, verse 25, which is the last chapter of Judges and last verse of that book. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. What does that mean? Exactly. Everybody had their own opinions how to serve the Lord. Let me tell you this. This is not much different from today. People don't know the Word. People don't read the Word. They don't know the Bible. Right? They never read it. So how do they serve the Lord? They serve the Lord the way they think is the right way to serve the Lord. Their own way. They imagine. They make up their own rules and their law. If this is God, this is how we should be worshiping the Lord. They're not following the way that God told us to serve the Lord because they don't know. They serve the Lord, they worship the Lord the way they think it is the right way to serve the Lord. Where did that come from? Where did it come from? It comes from their own idea. They put pieces of information, put it together, and they make up their own rule. And they believe that's how we should serve the Lord. Because they don't know. It's no different than today. How can we follow the God's guidance if we don't know what the guidance is? If we don't know the instruction, how can we follow the instructions? I don't even know what the instruction is. I never even read it. If it is very simple instructions, we may be able to guess it and follow it. But if the instruction is fairly complicated and it's very thorough and very long, you won't be able to follow it. Because you simply don't know what to do with this. Do you understand the flaw? It's a big problem. So we as a Christians, what are we believing then? What do you believe? We as a Christians, not following the traditions of church. We're not following the teachings of some kind of leader. We're following what is written in the book. We do if it is written. We don't do it if it is not written. We go by this book, the Bible. We have to go by the book. But since we don't know the book, since we never read it, since we don't know what it says, we can never follow it. Same thing happened to these people. Because nobody taught them, they did not know, they had no interest to learn about God's law, and then when the Ark of Covenant came from Philistine to Israelites, they did not know they're not supposed to open it, but they did anyway because they thought it was okay, because they simply did not know. But when they open it, obviously, they all die. Whose fault is that? Their own fault. It is not God's fault. God does not want them to die. That's not what God wants. But God can't do anything because they did it anyway. God did not stop it. God did not come and, came down from heaven and said, "Don't stop, don't open it." God did not say that. When the Israelites were just worshiping other God, God kept sent the prophets and giving the instructions. Nobody paid attention. Nobody really did anything with it. Well, that's why God punished them. No different. God gave all this law to priests, Levites. You are responsible for this. You need to teach them. Tell them not to come directly. But if they don't teach, obviously, they will not know. Just like the watchman. You got the warning. If you don't tell them, you're now responsible. So let's come back to Numbers, chapter 18. Or verse 8. Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, "Behold, I have given you charge of the contributions made to me, all the consecrated things of the people of Israel. I have given them to you as the portions, and to you your sons as perpetual due. This shall be yours of the most holy things, reserved from the fire, every offering of theirs, every grain offering of theirs, and every sin offering of theirs, and every guilt offering of theirs, which they rendered to me, shall be most holy to you and to your sons. In the most holy place shall you eat it. Every male may eat it. It is holy to you. This also is yours, the contributions to their gift, all the wave offerings of the people of Israel. I have given them to you and to your sons and daughters with you, and as a perpetual due. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. All the best of the oil, all the best the wine, and all of grain, the first fruit of what they give to the Lord, I give it to you. The first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they belong to the Lord, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Everything that opens the womb of all flesh, whether man or beast, which they offer to the Lord, shall be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall redeem, and the firstborn of the unclean animals you shall redeem, and their redemption's price as a month old you shall redeem them. You shall fix at 5 shekels in silver, according to the shekels of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerah. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of the sheep, or the firstborn of goat, you shall not redeem. They are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altars, and shall burn their fat as the food offerings with a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But their flesh shall be yours, as the breast that is waved, and as the right thigh are yours. All the holy contributions that the people of Israel present to the Lord, I give it to you, and to your sons and daughters with you, as perpetual due. It is a covenant of salt forever before the Lord for you and for your offspring with you. And the Lord said to Aaron, you shall have no inheritance in their land, neither shall you have any portion among them. I am your portions and your inheritance among the people of Israel. Now, this is the regulations, and the law was given to the priest. So God told him, I'm giving this food to you, okay? You can eat this, but you have to give your sin offerings, guilt offerings, and the offerings to me. So God gave this instructions to priest, and then you can eat of it a certain way, what you can eat and what you're not to eat, right? And verse 10 says, in a most holy place shall you eat it. Every male may eat it. It is holy to you. It is a law that God gave it to priest. What if the priest said, you know what, my stomach is a little, hurting me today. I don't feel like to eat today. I don't, I'm full now. I'll skip it today. What happened? It's not what you feel. Whether you're hungry or not hungry, right? I mean, you may say, well, okay, I'll just eat it tomorrow at home. I eat it where, I'll take this meat to my friend's house and I'm just going to eat with them. Can you do that? No, you cannot. It's the law that God gave it to them. You cannot just, overriding God's law and do what you want. It doesn't work that way. Then imagine if that's the case. You have to know this law and you have to follow it the way exactly what God told them to do. You cannot deviate from this law. So then, going back to what I said before, what if you don't know the law? And you say, well, I did not know about this. Right? So then, you may think it's okay, not knowing it, but for God, it is not okay. It's not like I did not tell you. I told you this. It is the law that you must abide to it. You have to follow it. And you have to tell others, the other priests, this is the law. And you have to do it exactly the way God told them to do. Now, going back to what I said before. Well, I don't need to know God's law. I vividly know what I have to do, so I'll just swing it. I just wing it, Is that how you can serve the Lord? No, you cannot. You have to go by the book. If you have to go by the book, obviously you have to know the law. Exactly what it is, you have to know. Then, let me tell you, do you know everything what is written here? Well, you have a problem then. It's not just us. If you don't know, obviously you can't follow it. It's very simple. This is why I kept saying, this is why we have to know the Bible. If you don't know the Bible, you will worship the Lord the way you want to worship the Lord, because you simply don't know how to serve the Lord. You don't know what He said. You just can't simply follow it, period. And for this, I mean, we cover all this when I was going through Leviticus, but I will just, summarize it here. God is giving it to the priest. So, priests, they cannot own the land. They will not get any particular place to live in. Because out of 12 tribes, Levites never got the land. God did not give them a land. Every other tribe got their own place to live. But the Levites did not get the land. So God told them, I'm not giving you a land. Instead of you doing anything in this land, right, I'm going to give the land to the rest of the tribes. Let them do work, right? And then portions, which is 1/10 of what they earn, they're going to bring it to me. From there, I'll give it to you. Because I did not give you land, I'll give it to you. Now from there, you give the 1/10 of what you receive and you give it to me. Just like the rest of the tribes are doing. So they received the portions from the people who are living in the land. But when I give this to you, right, you can eat this, but they must eat. Why? Why do they have to must eat? Why can't they skip it? Why do they have to eat this? Can you think of a reason why? What did Jesus say? He was actually, when he was having the Last Supper, he broke the bread and gave it to his disciple. This is my body. Eat of it. Right? Do you remember when Israelites was coming out of Egypt? There was a Passover. Right? What did God tell them to do with this, the Passover lamb? Let's go back. Exodus. Chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. We're going to read 5 and on. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lambs at twilight. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the house in which they eat it. They shall eat the flesh that night, roasted on the fire, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall eat it. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roast its head with its legs and its inner parts. You shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that is remained until the morning you shall burn. In this manner you shall eat it with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hands, and you shall eat it in the haste. It is the Lord's Passover. What did God say? What do you do with this Passover? Eat. How? How can you eat? Do you have to eat everything? You have to eat everything, and if there's any remaining, you have to burn it. Right? So, can you have anything left with this lamb? No. You either have to eat or have to burn it. Any remaining, you have to eat as much, and any remaining, you have to burn it. So that means you cannot leave anything behind, which means this lamb represents Jesus. This lamb represents Jesus. That means it's a word. Does that mean it's optional that you have to actually eat this lamb? Or it is a must? It is a must. So it is not just, taking the blood of the lamb and then put it on the door post. It's not that. After you paint the door frame with the blood, but also you have to eat the lamb, the Passover lamb. Everything. You cannot leave anything behind. So if priest must eat it, what does that mean? Same thing, just like Passover lamb. You have to eat this. Me, you have to eat my flesh. Can we take this Bible in pieces and then, I like this book, so I read. This book, I don't like it, so I skip it. Can you do that? No. That's not how it works. You have to take it as a whole. It is holy. You must eat in the holy place. The word, we have to eat of it. If we don't eat, that's a problem. But do we eat this? We don't. And everything what you read is referencing is Jesus here. Anyone, I'm giving it to the priest, and you can eat this food and meat with your family. But when you eat this, in verse 11, this also is yours, the contributions of their gift. All the wave offerings of the people of Israel. What is a wave offering? I told you, it's like wave offering, right? It's dead, right? It's dead. But when you wave it, what's the difference? Exactly. Dead one does not move, but you wave it as if it is alive. What does that mean? The death of Jesus Christ and the resurrection. That's what it represents. Dead one does not move, but it forces to wave as if it is still alive. So they have to eat this. In verse 11 and 12, all the best of oil, all the best of the wine, of the and of the grain, first fruit of what they give it to the Lord, I give it to you. The first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to the Lord, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. How did they become clean? Because the priest already cleansed their sins. They took up their iniquities, they cleansed their sins. Now they can eat this. And verse 16, and their redemption price, at a month old you shall redeem them, you shall fix at 5 shekels in silver, according to the shekels of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. I talked about this before. So, how much do they have to pay? $5 shekels in silver. First of all, 5 means grace. Silver means redemption. I mentioned when I went over all this when I was, going over the tabernacle. Right? But now, at the end, what does it say here? 5 shekel in silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerah. So each shekel is 20 gerah. Right? Is that right? 1 shekel is 20 gerah. So then, you have to give 5 shekel, and it has to be the sanctuary shekel. Do you remember how much you have to pay for the sanctuary shekel? Does anyone remember? Yeah. How much do they have to actually give? Don't remember? Let's go to Exodus. We learned this. Exodus chapter 30. Exodus chapter 30. We're going to read from verse 12. When you take the census of the people of Israel, then each shall give a ransom for his life to the Lord when you number them, that there be no plague among them when you number them. Each one who is numbered in the census shall give this half a shekel, according to the shekels of the sanctuary. the shekel is 20 gerah. Half a shekel as an offering to the Lord. How many? How many shekel? Half shekel. And yeah, so that's a 10 gerah, right? So why doesn't the Bible say give a 10 gerah? What is a half shekel? If it's 1 shekel is 20 gerah, just say offer 10 shekels. 10 gerah. Right? Do you remember that I showed you this? Do you know what this is? That's a half shekel. Still exists. Half shekel. You know why does the half shekel still exist? Because of this. Imagine, in any currency in the world, there's no such thing as a half. Have you seen the half dollar? Right? There's no such a thing as a half. It's a 50 cents. Or $5. There's no such thing as half $10. Nobody says a half $10 or half dollar. It's just either 50 cents or 5 cents or $5. There's no such thing as a half. But Israel is the only country has a half as a unit. Why? Correct. You have that absolutely correct. That's the answer. But why? You see? Correct. He broke it. What does that mean? He tore his body. He split it. Remember when Jesus died on the cross, what happened? The veil torn half. And the veil represent what? His body. That's what it says in the Hebrews, right? So, if that is the case, God is actually making them to give a half shekel. Half shekel is what? What did he say in the Exodus? It says, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And to do what? Redeem your life. Right? Redeem. When you look at verse 15, the rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half shekel when you give the Lord's offering to make atonement for your life. It's for your life. You have to give a shekel, half shekel. Why? Because you have to give the half shekel, which is Jesus, to save your life. That's what the shekels of the sanctuary. But then, going back to Numbers, verse 16 again, read it again. And their redemption praise, at a month old, you shall redeem them, and you shall fix at 5 shekels in silver, according to the shekels of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerah. So, you have to give, right? You have to give this animal, but if you can, it's okay. You can give 5 shekels. 5 shekel is what? As I mentioned, it's for the redemptions and it's for grace. You have to give it. So, verse 17 through verse 20, give this. Let's take a look at the verse 70. But the firstborn of a cow, or firstborn of a sheep, or firstborn of a goat you shall not redeem. They are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar, and shall burn their fat as the food offering with a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Why? Because this is Jesus. The blood has to be given because it's a holy. But their flesh shall be yours, as the breast that is waved and his right thigh are yours. Why? Because the flesh will be given to you. It is you to eat. Just like what I told you. This is why Jesus took the bread and gave it to them and said, eat of it. If you don't eat of it, you have nothing to do with me. So you have to eat this. But it is wave offering, because Jesus will die and he will resurrect, as if it is the living God. Verse 19, all the holy contributions that the people of Israel present to the Lord, I give it to you and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual due. It is a covenant of a salt forever before the Lord for you and for your offspring with you. What is this? This covenant is what? Yeah, it is a covenant of salt. What did I mention about covenant of salt? What do you use the salt for? It gives a flavor, but at the same time preserves. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's a covenant, right? It never change. So I'm giving it to you because this is never change. It will preserve forever. Oh my God. It's already done. So let's just move on quickly. Verse 21. To the Levites I have given every tithe in Israel for an inheritance in return for their service that they do their service in the tent of meeting, so that the people of Israel do not come near the tent of meeting, lest they bear sins and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tent of meeting, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be perpetual statute throughout their generations, and among the people of Israel they shall have no inheritance. For the tithe of the people of Israel, which they present as contributions to the Lord, I have given to the Levites for an inheritance. Therefore I have said of them that they shall have no inheritance among the people of Israel. So Levites go through the very similar process, just like how the priests are doing. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Moreover, you shall speak and say to the Levites, when you take from the people of Israel the tithe that I have given you from them for your inheritance, then you shall present contributions from it to the Lord, a tithe of the tithe. And your contribution shall be counted to you as though it were a grain of threshing floor, and as the fullness of the winepress. So you shall also present a contributions to the Lord from all your tithe, which you receive from the people of Israel. And from it you shall give the Lord's contributions to Aaron the priest. Out of all the gifts to you, you shall present every contribution due to the Lord. From each its best part is to be dedicated. Therefore you shall say to them, when you have offered from it and best of it, then the rest shall be counted to the Levites as the produce of the threshing floor, as the produce of the winepress, and you may eat it in any place, you and your household, for it is your reward in return for your service in the tent of meeting. And you shall bear no sin by reason of it, when you have contributed to the best of it, but you shall not profane the holy things of the people of Israel, lest you die. So, what God is telling, when you receive the tithe from the rest of the tribes, which neither Levites or the priest gets the land, so they receive the tithe from the rest of the tribes. And then once you receive the tithe, which God gave it to priests as well as the Levites, you need to give tithe from the tithe that you receive. Because everyone, regardless of whether you have the land or not, if you receive something, you need to give tithe, 1/10 of what you receive. Then you have to give the best to the Lord. But now, what does most people do? I keep it for myself, rest of it, I give it to the Lord. Whatever is remaining, I give it to the Lord. I keep the best of it. That's what most people do. Think about it. We have a 24 hours of time. And it's given to everyone. Whether you're a believer or not, it doesn't really matter. Everyone gets 24 hours a day. What do you do with your 24 hours a day? You sleep, you work, you eat, enjoy, you do everything. Do you have a time for the Lord? Barely. You don't have time for the Lord. I keep the most of it for myself. If I have spare time, then I'll do something for the Lord. So God's work is always at the bottom of the priority, and it's the leftover. It is not the best of it. What do you do with your best of your time? You spend it for yourself. Isn't that what we do? What about the money that we earn? Don't we keep it for ourselves first, and then if I have something remaining, I give it to the Lord? As if you give it to the beggar and say, well, I got some couple bucks there. Here it is. Do you think God will appreciate for the things that we do? And you expect a blessing from the Lord? We have to understand, and we have to remind ourselves, we have to give the best to the Lord. Whether it's time, my talents, my service, money. We know in our hand, but is that what we give to the Lord? Not really. So what I think, what I believe, is not what I do. I just know it, but I just don't do it. We always keep it for ourselves first. We don't give it to the Lord. What happened to Jesus? He gave what's the best to us. He gave himself for us. The Father gave his Son. Beloved the Son gave it to us. Most precious, most important. It is not easy to give the best to the Lord. We want to receive the best from the Lord, but giving back to the Lord the best is difficult. That's how it is. Why is that? That's who we are. That's who we are. As I mentioned, we are evil. Literally evil. So you have to understand, what we think, it is not what we do. And God is keep reminding us, I gave everything to you. I didn't spare. I didn't keep the 9 and I give you 1. I gave everything to you. And I'm asking you to give 1/10 of what you have, give it back to me. But we are very selfish and greedy that we don't give the best to the Lord. We always give the leftover to the Lord. Think twice what you give it to the Lord. God is to keep saying, I'll give all this to you. It is my law. I'm giving it to you. And he just explained this through this chapter 18, what the Levites, what the priests do, because this is representation of a Jesus. This is just a model. That's all it is. All right, so I just quickly went through it. I was hoping that I could cover chapter 19, but unfortunately, no, I can't do it today. Any questions so far?